And here's what they came up with. I do blah, blah, blah that helps people make more money with less time. I'm like, okay, we're going to have to niche that down just a hair more.
How do you come up with great questions? Because I think that's the other thing that probably scares a lot of people. And it's what makes a bad podcast, right? Oh, tell me how you got started with that. Oh,
Right.
what was that like? Like, actually, how do you script your stuff beforehand? Have you gotten to the point that you can just do it free flowing?
I would say it's a combo, but in a lot of cases, I'm talking to people on my podcast that I've talked to before, and I know enough about them to know exactly where I want to take the conversation in a deep way. Like I know what depths I want to get into. So, for example, I had Dan Cashel on, and we recorded yesterday, and he's done a lot of work with the Genius Network and Joe Polish and all those guys. And I basically, we talked about some other things, but I'm like, I only have one question for you. I want to talk about the fact that we're both in this weird category of consulting and implementation. Nobody knows what to call it. We're not exactly an agency. We're not a consultant. We don't just give you information to let you walk away. Do we call it fractional CMO? So I basically said, like, I want to get into a super deep, like, this is a conversation you never had with anyone else. I want to go deep into this one thing. Now, the reason that I can do that is because I know exactly who my audience is. And I know that that's something that's of interest to them, because a lot of times they're running that same type of business and they don't know what to call it. It's hopefully getting at a pain that they have right now. And so I think where a lot of people go wrong with like general questions and stuff like that is they're running a podcast or they're doing something in marketing just for the end goal of getting sales. And they're not realizing that you have to draw people into your belief system. And you got to know what that belief system is. And then if you know what your belief system is, then you can use your guest interviews as ways to elaborate and shine a spotlight on your specific beliefs that make you different. That's when a podcast, like an interview podcast, can be really powerful for generating sales. Otherwise, it just ends up being a bunch of conversations strung together that they could have gotten at a virtual summit. And so I think it, like with most things, like we're talking about just how micro-famous is like the marketing system that's designed for introverts. It all starts like literally the micro-famous system essentially starts with, you got to know who the right people are, because the goal is to become famously influential to the right people, not to everyone, like not to your city, not to everyone in your industry. You know what I'm saying? The goal is just to know who the right people are. I think if people understand who the right people are, who those ideal clients are, then you can really drill down and go, what do they care about? And that's where your best questions come from.
Got it. I like that a lot.
Yeah, people just don't. I think I'll give you an example.
Sure.
We have no idea what niching down really means, right? To really get clear about who the right people are. So I had someone take my fast track course, which is all my tools and templates for getting featured on podcasts, getting interviewed, and delivering a compelling message. So I've got some tools in there on how to really dial in your message and come up with something that's clear and compelling. And I was on with this person that said they spent like 5 or 6 hours going through that, and here's what they came up with. I do blah, blah, blah that helps people make more money with less time. I'm like, okay, we're going to have to niche that down just a hair more. But that's the state that we live in. I think we have no idea what it really means to get clear and compelling, which is to really niche ourselves further down so that we can speak to the right people in a way where they go, holy cow, no one is being that specific with me.
No one is being that specific or has shown mastery of that specific piece, right?
Yes, like exactly. When I was running one of my other podcasts, it was... What's funny is like I've got the Real Estate Uncensored podcast, which has like 1.5 million downloads, and it's doing great, and it gets all the accolades and all the social media acclaim in that space. Fine, but the Team Building podcast, which I also co-hosted and helped launch, that gets like 10,000 downloads a month in a space where the maximum universe of people that can hire them is like 20,000, and that's on a good year, right? Because they sell high-ticket coaching and events. So we were talking on that podcast about stuff like, hey, how do you boost your online lead generation from 1.3 to 2.7%? What average person cares about that? Nobody.
One out of out of
Right?
probably 500,000, like very,
Yes.
very few people. But if you have the right people, they are so dialed in.
Oh
Like
my God.
that's a headline that is going to either massively attract or massively repel.
Yes, because the people that don't know what they're doing go, oh, that's not a very high percentage. And all the people who run real estate teams and pay tens of thousands of dollars on pay-per-click go, holy cow, you can get 3% conversion on that? I want to listen to the hell out of that episode. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing where if you drill down and you get clear about who your right people are, and you understand that the right people it's not just some random subset or whatever. Hopefully it's the most valuable slice of that niche that you're going after first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you really dial in the content for them, they will solve your problems because they will make you visible.